Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to basically cut through the noise and get you straight to the core insights you need. We take stacks of information, articles, research, summaries, and we pull out the really important stuff, the goal, to give you those aha moments fast. Today we're diving deep into Elias Frangitakis' work, Focus on You Until You Win. Now, we don't have the physical book in front of us, but we do have a really detailed chapter-by-chapter summary. We're going to treat that as our guide. So we'll be breaking down the main ideas, looking at the practical strategies he suggests.
Exactly. And this isn't, just another self-help title. Frangitakis offers a pretty structured guide. It's about personal growth, sure, but really digging into self-discipline and how to actually achieve those big dreams. He really emphasizes this idea of winning from within. It's about building this internal foundation first. So yeah, this summary gives us a great roadmap to explore his whole philosophy chapter by chapter.
Right. And our mission here today for you listening is to pull out the actionable stuff, the things you can actually use. We'll walk through his whole process, looking for those strategies and real-world examples that you can maybe adapt for your own journey. So hopefully you'll leave with some concrete takeaways. Okay, let's get started. Chapter 1, Laying the Foundation, the Power of Self-Focus. So Frangitakis kicks things off with a pretty fundamental question, doesn't he?
It does.
Why is focusing on yourself, like really focusing inward, the absolute starting point for success? Why not just jump into action?
Well, that's the core of his argument, really. He says self-awareness is the critical first step. But his take on self-awareness is quite demanding. It's not just casually listing strengths and weaknesses. He pushes for this, like radical honesty, a deep reflection.
Radical honesty. What does that look like in practice?
It means asking uncomfortable questions. What are my blind spots? Sure. But also, what stories am I telling myself that are maybe holding me back? It's about peeling back layers, maybe facing some self-deception to really understand what's going on inside. It might involve things like consistent journaling, maybe meditation, or just quiet time dedicated to self-inquiry, confronting the discomfort, basically.
Okay, so it's more active than just thinking about yourself occasionally.
Much more active. And from that foundation, he unpacks 3 key ideas in this first chapter. First, identify your core motivations.
Right, the why.
Exactly. But he goes deeper. It's not just listing goals. He suggests looking at your fears or regrets too. Like, what do you absolutely want to avoid? What mistakes haunt you? Sometimes exploring those shadows reveals your deepest values, the things you need to live by. So if you fear regret, your motivation isn't just success, it's maybe living authentically. It's finding that powerful, sustainable drive.
That's an interesting angle. Looking at the fears to find the drive. What's the second idea?
Eliminating distractions. And he means this really broadly. It's not just the phone buzzing or social media.
Internal stuff, too.
Absolutely. Internal distractions like self-doubt, procrastination, mental clutter, and external ones, too. Maybe toxic relationships, pointless meetings, things that just don't align with where you want to go. His point is you need to create space, mental space, physical space, by consciously, maybe even ruthlessly, cutting out things that drain your energy or attention. Without that space, real focus is just, well, it's incredibly hard.
Guarding your inner sanctum, as you said. Okay, makes sense. And the third idea?
Start with small, intentional actions. Now, breaking down goals is common advice, right?
So baby steps.
Yeah, but he emphasizes the intentionality. These aren't just any small actions. They have to be deliberately aligned with those core motivations you just uncovered. Tiny steps, but pointed directly at your bigger goal.
Why is starting small so critical for him?
Because it builds momentum without triggering that feeling of being overwhelmed, which often leads to paralysis. Each small, intentional step reinforces your commitment, builds a little confidence, creates a positive feedback loop. So if your goal is writing a novel, the intentional action isn't just write 10 minutes. It's maybe write 10 minutes first thing, before checking email, protecting that specific aligned time.
I see. It's the alignment and the protection of that action that makes it intentional. Now, what's interesting is how the source material connects this back. It mentions roots in the early 2000s self-help movement, even authors like Napoleon Hill.
Yeah, there's definitely lineage there.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How these core ideas about self-focus, introspection, they seem to pop up again and again. Maybe the methods change, but that fundamental need to understand yourself.
Yeah.
It seems pretty timeless.
Absolutely. It's a constant human theme, that drive for self-mastery. And, linking this to a real-world example, think about Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx.
Oh, yeah. Incredible story.
Right. And if you look at her journey, especially around, say, 2024, when the brand was just enormous, Her success wasn't accidental. It seems like a direct result of that kind of intense self-focus Frangitakis talks about. Daily self-reflection was apparently key for her.
So what would daily self-reflection mean for someone building a billion-dollar company? It can't just be staring out the window.
Probably not. It likely involved things like meticulous journaling, working through strategies, yes, but also fears, visions, the next tiny steps, maybe specific meditation to cut through the noise of running a huge business, or maybe just dedicated quiet time each day, really focusing on the vision for Spanx, how it empowers women, how her actions that day lined up with that big picture. Remember all the rejection she faced. That self-focus kept her aligned with her why.
So it wasn't just business strategy, it was constantly checking in with her core purpose.
Exactly. It's the continuous effort, those small intentional actions, like famously cutting the feet off pantyhose driven by that deep inner clarity. That's how you get something revolutionary.
That really brings it to life. So for you listening, maybe think about what your daily reflection could look like. What space can you create? And what's maybe just one tiny intentional step you could take today? Okay, so we've laid the foundation with self-focus. Now, let's move into Chapter 2, Building Discipline, Cultivating Habits that Drive Success. Frangitakis is clear, right? Knowing your why is one thing, but actually doing the work consistently, that's another challenge entirely, especially when motivation dips.
That's the core of it, isn't it? The gap between knowing and doing. And this is where he gets really practical. He moves past just try harder and offers steps for building discipline that lasts. First up, creating routines. We all know routines are good for productivity, but he highlights the psychological benefits.
Like what?
Predictability, mainly. Routines reduce decision fatigue. Think about it. If your morning is automated, you wake up, hydrate, exercise, plan. You're not wasting mental energy deciding those things.
Right, you save that brain power for bigger problems.
Exactly. High performers often have these ingrained rituals. They don't think about the basics, they just do them. It frees up focus for what really matters.
Okay, routines make sense. What's next for building discipline?
Setting boundaries. And this is interesting because it's not just about saying no to other people, although that's part of it.
Boundaries with yourself.
Yes. Boundaries with your own time, your energy, your commitments. It means being strong enough to say no, even to good opportunities if they don't align with your core focus right now. It's about fiercely protecting your time for deep work. Maybe it's no meetings before 10 a.m. or turning off notifications during creative blocks. It's a conscious protection of your resources. Every yes to something else is a no to your main goal.
That takes discipline in itself, saying no.
It really does.
Wow.
And his third point is huge, maybe a bit counterintuitive. Consistency over motivation.
Oh, I like this one. Motivation is unreliable.
Totally unreliable. It's fleeting. It's an emotion. Habits, consistency, that's the foundation. So how do you keep going when you don't feel like it? By detaching the action from the feeling. You show up because it's Tuesday morning and that's when you do the thing, not because you're bursting with enthusiasm. It's just what you do.
Right. Make it non-negotiable.
Exactly. And that ties into his fourth technique, habit stacking. This is super practical.
Explain that one.
You layer a new habit you want to build onto an existing one that's already automatic. The old habit acts as the trigger. So if you always make coffee in the morning, the existing habit, you stack the new one onto it. After I pour my coffee, I will meditate for 5 minutes. Or when my coffee is brewing, I'll plan my top 3 tasks.
Ah, so you link the new behavior to something you already do without thinking.
Precisely. It leverages those existing neural pathways, makes the new habit much easier to stick, less willpower needed.
You know, it's interesting how the source connects these ideas to Stoicism again. Figures like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, they were all about self-control, consistent action, rationality in the face of chaos.
It's a direct line, isn't it?
Yeah. It feels like Frangitakis is giving us a modern toolkit for these ancient principles of self-mastery. The struggle is timeless.
Absolutely. And speaking of struggle and discipline, Simone Biles is such a powerful example, especially thinking about her journey around the 2025 Olympics.
Definitely. More than just physical discipline there.
So much more. Yes, her training schedule was intense, but that discipline was also crucial for her mental health, for navigating that immense pressure. Discipline became a tool for resilience.
How so?
Well, her routines, her boundaries, They weren't just about gymnastics. They created a predictable, psychologically safer space for her. Think about pre-competition rituals, maybe visualization, breathing exercises, managing anxiety, and crucially, setting boundaries around media, expectations,
Yeah.
protecting her mental energy, her decision to step back, prioritize herself, and then return. That embodies consistency over motivation.
Right. It wasn't about feeling motivated by medals every single day.
No, it was about consistently returning to her practices, her self-care, her training, even when it was incredibly hard. Her consistency was in showing up for herself mentally and physically.
That really reframes discipline, doesn't it? Not just grinding, but self-preservation.
Exactly.
So for you listening, what about your routines, your boundaries? Is there one small habit you could stack onto an existing one starting today? And how can you commit to consistency, even when that motivation just isn't there? All right, let's move into Chapter 3, Overcoming Obstacle Strategies for Resilience. Because let's face it, challenges will happen, right?
Absolutely inevitable.
So the question for Injotakis tackles is, how do you deal with them? How do you not just survive, but maybe even grow stronger?
Yeah, and his strategies here are really about transforming your relationship with setbacks. The first big idea is reframing failures as learning opportunities.
Okay, that sounds good, but how do you actually do that when something goes wrong?
It's a conscious mindset shift. Instead of seeing failure as final, as a reflection of your worth, you treat it like data. Painful data, maybe, but data nonetheless. You ask, okay, this didn't work. Why not? What can I learn from this? It shifts you from blame or despair into analysis and problem-solving mode.
So, like a scientist studying an experiment that failed.
Kind of, yeah. If a product launch bombs, it's not, I'm a failure, it's, what does this data tell me about the market, about the product, how can I iterate? It turns defeat into fuel for the next smarter attempt.
Got it. Reframe as data. What's the second resilience strategy?
Building a strong support network. It's so easy to think you have to tough it out alone, especially when pursuing personal goals. But Anjotakis says connection is vital.
What makes a strong support network in this context?
It's diverse. You need mentors, people who've been there, done that, and can offer guidance. You need peers, people facing similar challenges who offer empathy and practical tips. And you need that core circle family, friends, for unconditional emotional support.
So different people for different kinds of support.
Exactly. This network provides practical help resources, brainstorming, introductions, but also crucial emotional resilience, a safe space to vent, process, and just feel understood when things are tough. They're your sounding board, your reality check, your cheerleaders.
You know, the source material links this to the period after the Great Recession, around 2008, 2012.
Interesting.
That collective experience of needing to bounce back really highlighted how individual resilience is often shaped by shared struggles. We learn how to be resilient together, in a way.
That's a really insightful connection, and it makes the example of the small business owner in California in 2023 even more powerful, the one who lost everything in a wildfire but pivoted online.
Yeah, that's intense resilience.
Absolutely. Think about reframing that level of loss. It's not denying the trauma, but choosing to see it as maybe a brutal catalyst for innovation, a forced shedding of the old model to embrace the new digital reality.
The pivot to online must have been incredibly challenging.
Unimaginably so. Rebuilding a digital presence from scratch, finding new suppliers, learning e-commerce, regaining customer trust, all while dealing with personal loss. That's adaptability under extreme pressure.
And the support network must have been critical there.
Definitely. Beyond family and friends, probably local recovery groups, maybe flexible suppliers, loyal customers rallying, other entrepreneurs sharing digital know-how. It shows how resilience is both internal mindset and external support. They didn't just survive, they found a new way to thrive, literally from the ashes.
Wow. Okay, so for you listening, think about a recent setback, big or small. How could you start to reframe it as learning, as data? And who's in your support network? Can you lean on them more or maybe consciously build it out? Okay, moving into Chapter 4, Goal Setting with Purpose, Aligning with Core Values. This feels like a key distinction Anjotakis makes. It's not just setting goals, but making sure they mean something.
Precisely. He argues that just chasing metrics isn't fulfilling. Goals need purpose to provide sustainable motivation. It's about building a life that feels genuinely authentic.
So how does he suggest we do that? Does he still use frameworks like SMART goals?
Oh yeah, he definitely sees the value in SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. That framework is great for clarity and execution. It turns a vague wish like get fit into something concrete like Run a 10K under 60 minutes by October 31st by training 4 times a week.
Right, makes it actionable.
Exactly. But then he adds other layers. He emphasizes visualizing success.
A mental rehearsal thing.
Yeah, but it's more than just positive thinking. When you vividly imagine achieving the goal, using all your senses, feeling the emotions, you're actually priming your brain, building neural pathways for success. It helps you anticipate challenges, problem solve in advance, and really strengthen your belief that you can do it. Athletes do this all the time. Seeing it helps you achieve it.
Okay, SMART goals visualization.
Yeah.
But what's the core differentiator for Frangitakis?
The alignment with core values, this is what makes a goal truly meaningful and resonant, not just an item on a to-do list.
Explain that more. Why is that alignment so crucial?
Because if your goal doesn't connect with what you fundamentally value, say connection or creativity or impact, then even achieving it can feel hollow. It taps into intrinsic motivation, which is way more powerful than external rewards. If your goal is just make more money, but your core value is family time, you might achieve the goal but feel miserable because it took you away from what truly matters to you. It's like climbing a ladder against the wrong wall. Your values are your compass. The goals need to align with that direction.
That really elevates goal setting, doesn't it? Beyond just achievement for achievement's sake. It reminds me of how the source notes this builds on, like 90s goal-setting ideas, which are often very corporate, very output-focused.
Totally. He adds that vital layer of personal meaning. It shifts from what can I achieve for the company to what can I achieve that aligns with me.
Right. It's a more holistic view.
Definitely. And the example of the tech startup founder in 2025 securing $10 million by focusing on sustainability that nails this value-driven approach.
How did focusing on values like sustainability help attract that kind of money?
Well, think about it. Increasingly, investors aren't just looking at profit potential. They want purpose, impact, sustainability. This founder likely built their entire company around that core value. Their pitch wasn't just numbers. It was about the positive change their tech would create. That authentic commitment resonates deeply with investors and also with conscious consumers. It's not just a marketing ploy. It's woven into the company's DNA.
So the values drive the strategy, the product, everything.
Exactly. Every decision gets filtered through that value lens: materials, supply chain, company culture. They'd still use SMART goals, of course, to make the vision concrete for investors, like reduce carbon footprint by X% by Y date,
Right.
or achieve circular packaging by 2026. It makes the vision credible and compelling. It shows that doing good is good business. And you can bet that founder visualized not just the funding, but the impact they want it to make. That clarity is magnetic.
That's a fantastic example of purpose-driving success. Okay, so for you listening, what are your core values? Seriously, take a moment, maybe even write them down, and then look at your goals. Are they truly aligned? How can you make them more meaningful, more motivating by connecting them to what you deeply care about? Okay, let's transition now. We've set purposeful goals, but Chapter 5 tackles something really crucial. Sustaining momentum, avoiding burnout. Because that's a long game, right? How do you keep that focus and drive going for months, maybe years, without hitting a wall?
This is so incredibly relevant today, isn't it? Everyone feels the pressure. Frangitakis' advice here is critical for long-term success and well-being. His first point is balancing ambition with rest.
Rest sounds nice, but what does he really mean by it? Just sleep?
Sleep is foundational, yes, but he means more. He talks about active recovery, deliberate mental breaks, rejuvenation. That might be deep engagement in a hobby totally unrelated to your main goal: time in nature, meditation, a proper digital detox. It's not laziness, it's strategic.
Strategic rest.
Absolutely. Think of it like essential maintenance. You can't redline an engine forever. Pushing constantly without recovery leads to diminishing returns, bad decisions, and eventually burnout. Rest isn't a luxury, it's a necessity for sustained performance.
Okay, balance ambition with active rest. Got it. What else helps sustain momentum?
Tracking progress incrementally. We touched on breaking things down earlier, but this is about consciously celebrating the small wins along the way.
Why is that so important for the long haul?
Because big goals can feel overwhelming, almost impossible sometimes. Recognizing and acknowledging each small step forward provides positive reinforcement. It maintains morale. It proves to yourself tangibly that you are moving forward. It gives you those little dopamine hits that keep you motivated. It turns that massive mountain climb into a series of achievable base camps. You celebrate reaching each one, building energy for the next stage.
That makes so much sense, focusing on the step you just took, not just the distant summit. You know, this really taps into the whole wellness conversation that's become so prominent in the 2020s. The recognition that burnout is real and that mental well-being isn't separate from productivity, it's essential for it.
Totally. It's a societal shift, and Frangiotakis is right on pulse with that. And there's data to back this up, too. The source mentions a 2024 study.
Oh yeah. What did it find?
It showed that employees who use mindfulness apps reported, I think it was 30% less burnout.
30%. That's significant. How do those apps help?
Well, they typically guide you through practices like meditation, focused breathing, body scans, things that train present moment awareness. This helps reduce rumination about the past or anxiety about the future. You learn to observe thoughts without getting swept away by them. It promotes that mental rest and emotional regulation even in a busy day. It's a practical tool for implementing the kind of active recovery Frangiotakis talks about.
So it's a tangible way to build that balance.
Exactly. It shows how incorporating simple tools can be a real safeguard against exhaustion. It's not magic. It's about optimizing your mental and emotional resources.
Okay, that's really concrete. So for you listening, how can you build more genuine rest and recovery into your life?
Mhm.
What does that look like for you? And what small bit of progress, maybe even from today, can you acknowledge and celebrate to keep that momentum going? Which brings us perfectly to the final chapter, chapter 6. Celebrating wins, fueling further growth. It seems like the capstone to his whole philosophy.
It really is. And it's something people often skip, right? We achieve something and we just immediately move on to the next thing.
Yeah, brush it off.
Frangiotakis argues that's a mistake. Celebrating wins isn't just about patting yourself on the back. It's strategic fuel for the future. His first point is simple: reward progress.
Why is rewarding yourself so important psychologically?
Positive reinforcement. When you achieve something, even small, and consciously acknowledge it with some kind of reward, your brain releases dopamine. That literally wires you to repeat the behaviors that led to the success.
So it trains your brain to want to succeed again.
Basically, yes. And the reward doesn't have to be huge or external. He actually stresses that internal satisfaction, really savoring the feeling of accomplishment, letting it sink in, can be incredibly powerful. Just pausing to register, I did it. The key is that it's meaningful to you.
Okay, reward progress, internal or external?
Ah,
What's the second idea in celebrating wins?
This one's really interesting. Share success to inspire others. This takes it beyond just personal gain.
How does sharing help you? Seems counterintuitive, maybe.
Well, when you authentically share your journey, the struggles, the pivots, the wins, you become a source of possibility for others. You show what's achievable. That act of sharing actually reinforces your own learning. You have to articulate your process, reflect on what worked.
So teaching reinforces your own understanding.
Exactly. Plus, it builds community, attracts like-minded people, can lead to new opportunities. It creates this positive ripple effect. It's not about boasting, it's about connection and empowerment. It fuels your growth by making you a contributor, a leader in your own way.
That's a great perspective. And again, links back to those positive psychology trends from the 2010s, doesn't it? Focusing on well-being, motivation, the science of happiness. Frangiotakis seems to be grounding his advice in that understanding of how we thrive.
Absolutely. It's practical application of those principles. And the example of the YouTuber in 2025 celebrating 1 million subscribers by mentoring new creators, it just perfectly captures this idea.
Yeah, tell us more about that. How is mentoring a celebration of fuel?
Well, hitting 1 million subs is massive, right? Instead of just a party, this YouTuber chose to reinvest that success back into the community. Mentoring forces them to distill their knowledge, reflect deeply on their journey, which solidifies their own expertise. They might share insights on content strategy, algorithms, community building, dealing with online pressure, all the things they learned. This act of generosity embodies that principle of inspiring others. It shows success isn't just accumulation, it's about upliftment. And that, in turn, strengthens their own position and reinforces their own journey.
It completes the circle, really. Personal success leading to community growth, which fuels further personal growth.
Precisely.
So, for you listening, think about your own wins, recently or further back. How can you truly celebrate them, letting that feeling sink in? And how might you share your journey, your learnings, even in small ways, to potentially inspire someone else?
Wow. Okay. We have really covered a lot today, journeying through Elias Frangiotakis's focus on you until you win. From that essential starting point of deep
With
self-awareness, to
foundation.
building rock-solid discipline with habits and routines, finding resilience to overcome those inevitable obstacles, setting goals that actually resonate with your core values,
It's just so key.
then learning how to sustain that momentum without crashing and burning, and finally, understanding the power of celebrating every win to fuel what comes next and lift others up too. Yeah, it really paints a picture of a holistic, interconnected process, doesn't it? It's not just a list of steps, it's a cycle. Winning from within, as he puts it, it's clearly this continuous journey. It's a constant dance between self-focus, action, resilience, purpose, rest, and celebration. Each part feeds the others.
Absolutely. And we've unpacked so much, but the amazing thing is every single bit of it comes back to you, the listener. It's about how you can take these ideas and consciously apply them to your own life, your own situation.
So maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. Given everything we've explored today, the focus, the discipline, the resilience, the purpose, the balance, the celebration, what is just one immediate, tangible next step you can take, starting right now, to truly begin winning from within?